Well, welcome. Thank y'all for being here today. Probably seems a little bit strange. I don't know that we've ever done this before. I know I've not ever been a part of a press conference for the county superintendents. Have y'all ever seen anything like this? One other time. What was that issue?
It was the last time the state really lost.
Okay, last time the state really messed up the accountability system. So, thank you for being here. I'll set the agenda just a little bit. We actually got together as a group of county, and please forgive me how many times I messed this up. We call ourselves Hopkins County, but we include little old Delta County there out of Cooper. They're the only school in Delta County, so if I just say Hopkins and don't say Delta, I'm always including Delta as well. But we meet pretty regularly together to discuss the issues of school. I think you should be very aware by now of the A through F system that was launched last Friday publicly. And we spent some time together last week talking about the impact of this on our community, on our school system. Obviously, and if you look at Twitter, Facebook, or the news at all, this is not something that's being very well received across the state of Texas, nor is it being very well received by us. We really don't like feeling like complainers and whiners towards anything. However, to be fair, we just feel like this is not a system that's going to do us well. It's not a system that's going to even serve its intended purpose. We've tried to ask ourselves, what is the intention here? And in every way, this system seems to miss the boat in what they're trying to accomplish, and that's sharing information about our schools. We got together last week. We prepared basically a press release. It's in front of me. It would have been easy to just deliver this to each of the media outlets, but as we talked more, we thought it was important enough to try to come together in this format. So I hate to be formal in any way, but I'm going to simply read the press release, and then after there, just be open to any questions if that's fair. And of course, we'll hand this off to you so that you have something of substance to use. From the Hopkins and Delta County Superintendents, it's a response to the ADF rating system. During the last legislative session in Texas, a law was passed requiring the Commissioner of Education to develop a system that would give every campus and district in the state a grade from A to F in 5 domains. As required by law, the Commissioner has developed a system and prepared a report for the legislature that is a preliminary attempt to comply with the law. The report is unofficial and one possible method of assigning letter grades to each campus and district using only 4 of the ultimate 5 domains. The Texas Education Agency states that this report is simply a work in progress. The final criteria for rating schools will not even be established until the summer of 2017, with the first set of grades to be released in August of 2018. On December 8th, 2016, the Texas Education Agency published the school report cards for every district in the state. The purpose of the report card is to, quote, inform parents and guardians about a campus's individual characteristics and its academic performance. Using the 2015 and 16 data, every district in Hopkins County and Delta County met standard and earned multiple distinctions. Mike Morath, the Texas Commissioner of Education, stated, quote, earning 1 or more distinctions is noteworthy and should be a source of pride in a community. Now, a different rating system using the very same data from 2015-16 will be released, or actually was released last Friday, using an A to F rating for all campuses and districts. Districts which met standard and earned distinctions may now receive letter grades of C or below. This report could lead to very negative feelings among teachers and our communities. Our teachers work hard every day to educate all of our students in Hopkins and Delta County. With the student population becoming more diverse, teachers are asked to find new ways to reach students who are in poverty, as well as those who are limited English speakers. They have accepted every challenge and done an amazing job of meeting the challenging standards that the legislator and the Texas Education Agency has set before them. Our teachers are to be commended. After conducting our own analysis of the 2015-16 data and looking at the school report cards published by TEA, we believe we are meeting the ideals and expectations of our communities in Hopkins and Delta County, and we will continue to do so. Now, that's our official statement as a group of superintendents in this county and the surrounding counties. I could go on and on for hours about what this is and what this means and does, and I really don't want to do that. At this point in time, I would just ask, are there any questions that you'd like for us to field from the media?
So essentially, it's the same data and information, and but they give you an A through F rating instead of the final med standard.
Right. And the hard part is we spent time probably 2 or 3 months ago celebrating that data, celebrating our scores for accountability. Here we are 3 months later, and in some cases it's not as much to celebrate. And I want to give you one hardcore example. Domain 3 is based on a mathematical line, supposed to be a great equalizer. Let me ask you this question. In any old system, if I told you on any given scoring report we scored 80%, and you said, well, the state average was 78, is that 80% good or bad? I mean, this is what it gets into. Do what?
It'd be a B.
It'd be a B? Okay. Say that again.
It's above the state average.
Above the state average, it's this understanding that everybody in the state kind of performs at this level. We're just a tiny bit above it. In Domain C, most everybody falls in that category of being at state average. However, that's assigned a C. And while we understand that average, but you understand that communities and people don't associate C with being a good thing. Where in the past, if we performed above state average, that always indicated, in my opinion, something more than the message of a C indicates. And that's the kind of thing we're dealing with in each and every one of these domains.
Is this going to take a re-educating by the schools to the public as it relates to how the school is scored in the system that's used? Will the schools take a proactive tact in trying to approach this?
I am very optimistically convinced we will never one day live in this system. We've had too many things like this happen in the past. There's enough. The sleeping giant has been awoken. I'll be anxious to see what this, and to be fair to the whole situation, the commissioner has stated over and over, this is a work in progress, this is a work in progress, calm down. What they don't seem to understand is we tell our community C or D in any way, most people aren't that calm. So we understand what he's saying, we understand in a sense what he's trying to do, but I don't think for a minute we'll really live in this system as is. We may live in a system, I think it'll go away altogether. However, we could live in something that'll be tweaked heavily at this point. Yes, we would have to adjust how we do certain things. And that's not necessarily a problem. I'll tell you, the frustrating thing, and if you can give me a good reason for giving a campus or a school a single grade rating, and I can go either way with you. If I tell you, well, we have a high school that's an A high school, you know, what does that end up meaning? Who's that information for? What am I trying to communicate? And I could go to different routes with you. And I use a real example. We have, because of our hospital, we've had doctors call, moving to town, interested in what we have to offer for their students. Sometimes we don't have what their students have had in their previous schools. But I could tell them, we have an A high school. And all the things that would give us an A in this category, which would be attendance rates, low socioeconomic students' performance, growth of struggling students. For that particular doctor who's asking a question about his kid, none of those measures touch his child. So once again, the intention of communicating to parents, I could tout all day long we have an A school, but that doesn't even mean anything to some people that are truly looking for what an A school would mean. I could say we have a C school. Well, what would that end up meaning? We have a C school if it's based on these things, but you're looking for, we could easily have a higher average SAT score than anybody in the state. And you wouldn't know that by simply saying we have a C score. So once again, it's just a system that in no way does what they claim it's intending to do.
Do they need to change the way they're grading it, or do they need to change the standards by which they're grading it?
I think what an unintended consequence of this rating system, it kind of shows how the test is undeniably linked to economically disadvantaged areas. That's pretty much what it is. You'll see it if you're 0 to 20 on the poverty line, with very few economically disadvantaged kids. Those are the schools that have ended up with an A rating. Whereas if you have 60 to 100% of kids that are in poverty or economically disadvantaged, then those are the ones that are more D's and F's. So the system that they're putting out there I think it's going to help us as public schools to show that this test just shows who's poor and who's not. So.
To expound on your question just a little bit, I'm going to kind of answer it two different ways. One of their opening documents is one of their descriptions says this: the 84th legislation passed House Bill 2804, changing the Texas school accountability system so that every campus and district receives one of 5 ratings from A to F. Much like students receive grades in individual subjects, and those are combined into a GPA. So they say in their own literature, well, just like a kid gets a GPA, we think a school ought to get a single grade. Now keep in mind, we're getting 4 grades right now per campus. The first 2, it's an either or. Pick the higher of the 2. One of them we're not even doing yet. 5's to come later. And so eventually all they want to do is give us 1 grade. And that's the ultimate goal. And they're comparing it to a student getting a GPA. My son's a sophomore who has a GPA going. In the end, it's going to be a conglomeration of 26 grades per class, which are 26 very similar things. To do this, and all that we've already mentioned, is like saying, well, let's put some kind of metric on that kid's SAT score. And let's put some kind of metric on his attendance rate. And let's put some kind of metric on his grades. And then we're going to give him 1 score. Now think about that. When he goes to college, how do they decide? GPA is one thing. How do they decide who to accept into college and who not to? They look at more than just that GPA. And so this would be like taking all those things and putting them into 1 grade and then lining all those grades up and saying, well, these are the kids we'll let in and these are the kids we won't. When I go to hire a principal, we look at all kinds of things. We look at the school they worked at last. We look at their scores in college, where they went to college, the subject matter they've taught and can teach. Sometimes as a principal, we want a stronger disciplinarian or a stronger academic person. The whole point here is you can't have a single grade tell you what a school does. And if you're interested in your child being able to be at a school that's going to produce a National Merit Scholar, you need to be able to ask that question. How do y'all perform in the National Merit Scholar realm? If you're interested in your child attending a school that dominates at UIL, you need to be able to ask that question. From our accountability from months ago, we are not afraid of accountability whatsoever. I'm pleased to know that we have work to do in our science. We have work to do with our African American students at every grade level. We have work to do in our 3rd grade passing scores. Because of the way it's been, I know all these things in each realm. To just say A in one component or B or C doesn't communicate to us what we need to work on and where our strengths and weaknesses are. That's the problem with it, is trying to lump it all into one.
As an example of one of the scores that's been given, in the Category 1 student achievement, and it's based on, by public standards, we would probably think that's based on the number of students that are passing our test, because past accountability systems have been based on that, passing standards. The way this A through F rating is scored, a school could have 100% of students passing standards on STAR and still rate an F.
Is this a change that's going to come about through the legislators, or is it going to come about through the educational system itself?
To be fair, we do think that there's some monkey business going on here and there. But it is in the hands of the legislators. In the last legislative session, they said, by 2018, we want to do this. That has every marking of, you'll have an opportunity in the next legislative session to do away with this. So they put it out there far enough. Let's try this out. Let's test this out. We have all the confidence in the world that our legislators will see the light and basically do away with this in the next legislative session.
You may not want to answer this question, but does this create an environment in which a certain type of school district is going to gain an advantage, a stronger advantage over another type of school district?
Somebody else want to take it? Or you want me to?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
I want somebody to say
yes.
it.
Well, this whole system is clearly based on low socioeconomic population. And we in Sulphur Springs are 60% low socioeconomic. Compared to, and we all, you know, I would have told you every school in the state of Texas has at least a few poverty kids. I was surprised to look up and see, and we always use Highland Park as our example. They actually have 0 low socioeconomic students. So that is the underlying biggest. Once again, I could say, if your child's interested in the fact that our school is an A school, if we were an A school, what it would mean is we've done really good with low socioeconomic students in every way. That doesn't touch your child at all if they're not a low socioeconomic student. So can some schools do better? Now, the interesting fact is even Highland Park had a few C's in their report card, which once again will contribute to this not lasting long, in my opinion.
You look like you want to answer.
No, I was just, very agreeable that, yes, it is going to change. It's going to make people look at, oh, where do we want to go?
But a lot of people are not going to have a choice as to where they go. If the low socioeconomic school is failing,
Right.
people in the lower socioeconomic structure can't move.
Well,
They can't transfer, they can't go. So that leaves the door open, pardon me for saying this, to charter schools and a business profit measure. Am I right?
there are some that would say, in a very skeptical way, that that is the goal of this exercise,
Right.
is to further move the agenda of opening the door for vouchers, which lead to homeschool situations, private school situations. And I'll just tell you, and I didn't know what direction this would go today. Watching some of the other, for instance, Region 10 and Region 10 superintendents did a press conference yesterday. Watched it on Twitter. They use this as an opportunity to launch what they call their whole legislative agenda, all the things they would like to see. And surely you've heard by now, one of the big pushes is a voucher system, which our governor has put out in paper that's school of choice is his #1 priority. We need to band together as communities. We need the press and our community understand. We believe that would be bad for the system, a voucher system that allows students, and I'll just use Sulphur Springs as the example, to take money that we get for a student currently and allow them, whether it be private school. My biggest fear is it's too easy at this point, or at least as they've sold it. Well, I'm going to homeschool my child. And the way the state has set this up at this point, we get around $5,000 per kid. It has been said if they begin this voucher program, they'll give a family $3,000 to go wherever they want. They pocket $2,000 in the middle of that. It's great for the state, great for the family. We contend it's not so great for us. We wouldn't even be opposed to, one of the legislators' arguments back is, we're not taking money out of your pocket because you're only funded for the students you have. And if those students leave, you wouldn't have them. And I get that, and I can buy into that for a minute. But what they don't understand, if we have 4,000 kids and we hire teachers to cover 4,000 kids, and all of a sudden 200 of them leave because they're going to this program, all of a sudden we've got less money. We're contractually obligated to these teachers. You don't just get to wave a magic wand and all of a sudden undo things that you've done. If I thought there was a way for us to shrink down a good 1,000 kids and then readjust our budget and everything, I'd be all for it. We'd kick tail in 3A and roll on. If it worked like that, that'd be fine. But
Another thing.
That leaves the question then, if again, lower socioeconomic people is what we're dealing with here, isn't there the option then for them to pocket that money and not put
Absolutely.
their kid in school and not give their child?
And what I wanted to further say in there,
The oversight.
what I want to further say in there, in that, so that our community is very aware, if in my opinion, and people say, well, we don't have private schools, vouchers isn't going to hurt us. If people take advantage of the system and take the money and keep their kids at home, they're going to run our streets, they're going to tax our police office, they're going to be in our businesses in town right now, they're going to be in the Walmart, they're going to be in and out of the stores. Too many kids at that point, in my opinion, will run the streets and cause problems, not only for us, the school, but everybody in town.
Charter schools have had a hard time with, well, let me rephrase this. The state has had a hard time regulating charter schools and the level of education that they have. Would that not also be an issue?
Very much so. There's different levels to the argument here. We contend if students leave us, take their money, go to charter or public school or private school, you know, our biggest complaint is we're okay with that if you'll put the same accountability measures on it. And that's not been, of course, you talk to many private schools, they don't really want this either, because they don't want the state in their business. And they don't want to be told what to have to do, and there's this small feeling that maybe that would come.
If you take state money and go to a church school, now you've got to cross that line of church and state. Then also, on the other hand, if you have your students leave, they take their money out and go, and they go to private school and get kicked out, and they come back to our schools, where's that money go?
Where's the accountability?
And we're getting them back. If we don't get the money back, then we're underfunded to take care of the kids that we have.
Yeah, because there is a cutoff on funding those students.
We called this today to talk primarily about A to F, but we don't mind sharing that as this legislation begins, I believe today, is it?
Yes.
These are two very strong topics, vouchers and A to F system, that many of us will end up in Austin several times trying to visit with different legislators about the damage we think that will do to our system and our community. And you don't have to look long to see neighboring states that have tried this, and it's been disastrous. Anything else?
As the public, what do you advise for parents to do when they find out this?
Go to Austin.
Just not lose faith in the school. The school hadn't changed. I mean,
Exactly.
like I said, it's a matter of perspective. If you see C's at this point, C's are average, and I guess you got to ask yourself, is average acceptable or not? Nothing's changed. Our teachers still work hard. I guess that's the biggest underneath fear. We just feel like people see C's and D's and you know, I hate, misery does love company. You know, as I kind of explained to my school board last night, we get our own information last Monday. And I'm sitting there looking at mine without knowing the totality of the situation. For all I know, I've got these C's and everybody around me has got A's. Well, that would lend itself to, they're all going to leave me and go, well, now I can say, where are you going to go?
We're all in this boat together.
Where are you going to go from here to West Texas? I mean, you can't take your toys and run anywhere. So, you know, there was, as the week went on and we started to see that it wasn't just us, what do you say to parents? You say, I hate to feel like whiners.
Right.
It's a very bogus system. If you want to spend time with me proving to you why I can, it doesn't do anything that it's intended to do. Please, parents, don't worry about what this is, because it won't last. The commissioner has said, in my opinion, tongue in cheek, don't worry, changes will happen. This is preliminary. This is preliminary. I believe one of his comments was, Josh, you might remember well, what was his comment in his letter? Something to the effect of, don't spend a lot of time on this right now.
Don't draw any inferences.
Don't draw any inferences.
And that our official academic ratings are still what they gave us before, not this system. It's not even scheduled to be complete until August of this summer.
And he also stated there will be changes.
Right.
You got to ask yourself a little. I go back to what is a grade. I mean, if you sat before me and I could look at you and say, we've got an A high school. And if you said, well, Mr. Lamb, I've looked up Rockwall High School's average SAT score. They offer about 10 more AP classes than you offer. And they have a swimming program and they have a wrestling program. And how are you in A? I'd have to say, oh, you got me. But, you know, come down a little further, come down a little closer, come in a certain area. I mean, back to my point is our current accountability system puts us in a group of people that look like us. 60% low socioeconomic, and it grades us in that way. And we contend that's a little more fair amongst schools that have 60% low socioeconomic status. We perform very well. And we might be an A school in that realm. And that's where the system that we're currently graded on has done that, has brought that in to compare us to more comparable schools. We use the example in our district. What's it like to be the CEO of Dollar General? I mean, Dollar General wants to be the best, don't they? What's it mean to be the best? Will they ever compete with Walmart? I mean, we want to be the best, but we've got to be the best in the realm that we're in. And we want to be the best school we can be that is our size and serves our type of community. We want to absolutely be the best we can be. Will we ever really compete, whatever competing means, with a Rockwall or a Coppell or a McKinney? No, they're Walmart and we're Dollar General in that case. But we want to be the best where we are. Thank you guys for coming today. Thank you, board members from the other schools. We appreciate the united aspect of this. And, we're ready to tell our tale. I would say fight the fight. I hate that it feels like a fight, but we certainly don't need to sit quietly. We need to be able to speak and tell our tale and see what happens. So thank you.
Jeff.